Rachel, you're here tonight to tell us why and how did the America's Cup organizers decide on such a radical move from moving to the place that was going to really change the waterfront.
Right, so what this is, the America's Cup races are supposed to start with exhibition matches in August and then have the trophy matches next year. And they're supposed to have Piers 3032, that's just south of the Bay Bridge, to be kind of the home base for the teams that are racing in this kind of premier yacht race. And they decided this week, to much of the surprise of a lot of people, that they're abandoning the plans to redevelop Piers 3032, and they're going to have the races, the teams be at Pier 80, which is in the Dog Patch area, much further south in San Francisco. Now, they said they did it for a number of reasons. One, financial uncertainty. They just didn't know whether they could come up with the money and get the financing done, and also whether they could construct the project quickly enough. It was a very tight time frame, and they were going to before the Board of Supervisors, which had a lot of questions and threw some uncertainty in that. Mayor Ed Lee, who has made the America's Cup kind of a centerpiece of his economic development plans for San Francisco, said, "No problem, folks. It's not a great news for us, but we're still going to go forward with the races. The races are going to bring great economic activity to the Bay Area. They're looking at more than $1 billion folks, or $1 billion from people coming in and spending their money to watch these races. But it was a big blow for San Francisco. These are piers that are between the ferry building and the ballpark, and they wanted them to be redeveloped through a private-public financing scheme.
Rachel, they're getting some opposition, I understand. Who are these folks? They're arguing environmental reasons. Is that their true motive, or what do you think?
Environmental reasons is one sense for this. Now, Aaron Peskin, who's the former president of the Board of Supervisors, who has kind of made the waterfront development his baby for years, said that the environmental reviews for this project were inadequate, and so he sued on this. There's also an uneasiness in San Francisco with private-public partnerships. So this project was going to cost upwards of up to $111 million, a lot of money. The Port of San Francisco, which runs the waterfront property, was supposed to pay back the America's Cup organizing committee, the sponsoring folks of the races, through a number of pretty complicated financing mechanisms, but they were going to be doing that through development rights. And they wanted to put they would have gotten into development rights for these Piers 3032 and also a parcel of land across the street. People said, don't give away public assets, some of the opponents of it. Others are saying, if we're going to do anything to shore up our waterfront, we can't do it alone. There are more than $2 billion of needs for San Francisco's port property. San Francisco doesn't have the money to do it. You've got to bring in private investors.
Is this going to affect the job market in any way, or San Francisco's plan for some relief from
here's how it affects the job market.
Budgets?
This is supposed to be a very big project that would be hundreds, if not thousands, of construction jobs. So that's not the long-term prospect of that, but it was really the immediate construction jobs. We have that going at the same time that we also heard that Salesforce.com decided that it wasn't going to develop its property on Mission Bay. They pulled back. It was a pretty large project, 2 million square feet, 14 acres in the Mission Bay development. You can see some of the schematics on the screen right now. They were, in fact, supposed to go to the Planning Commission this week to get the approvals of it, and they said, we're not going to go forward with that project now. They had bought the land. Instead, what they decided to do is to put their company, keep it in the downtown core area, expand there. Their reasons, they said, they couldn't build the Mission Bay project quickly enough. They're expanding so fast they wanted to go into existing office space.
You know, in the technology community, all we hear about is how much Salesforce is growing. Where are they going to put all these people if they're not going to develop this new property?
Right, they say eventually they will go into Mission Bay, but right now they're going to go into empty space in downtown San Francisco. Don't forget, we were coming off a pretty grim economic situation in San Francisco where a lot of businesses were closing, that there is a lot of extra office space in the city. So eventually they'll do that, but we're going to see a big boom now, not just in the mid-market area where Twitter's going, but also in the downtown financial district core, and fill up the office space there.
We're talking about an enormous growth in people working in the downtown area, thousands, right?
Right. I mean, thousands of people just with Salesforce.com. That has a big impact on everything from the positive impact of people who are going to go and buy and shop and things on their lunch break and before and after work. But you have to also think about what impact is this going to have on Muni, which is already busting at the seams. What's it going to do to traffic in San Francisco? We're already seeing a lot of traffic congestion. So there's going to be a lot of pressure there. I think we are going to see the city, though, the development going where the city had been planning, which is in the Mission Bay, kind of South Beach, Rincon Hill area. I think that's still going to be pushing out that way.
Well, one thing, we're not quite sure what Salesforce has been doing to earn all these billions of dollars of expected income.
Secrets, Belva. Now, what they're doing, I mean, this is an internet company that does its business on the internet. It develops software, has the software that you can rent, and you don't have to buy it. We're talking about a tremendous number of employees, though. 3,000 now in San Francisco, and they're expecting to build it up to 5,000, perhaps 8,000 in the years to come. I mean, we are seeing this new renaissance of the dot-com renaissance that we experienced in the early 2000s that then went bust. So there's a lot banked on this right now.
Well, that's got to make you a little bit nervous.
Doesn't make me nervous. I don't have stock in it, but I mean, you do see the boom and bust in San Francisco, and we've had a lot of good news coming this way, especially with the Mission Bay development, the biotech industry, with the second UCSF campus going there. But to kind of have this 1-2 punch come at the city was not really good news, both with the America's Cup, because it was symbolic as well as real jobs and real money being poured into the piers. And then the Salesforce.com, yes, you might still have the employees here, but it's not that big development. I'd be surprised if that hole stays in Mission Bay for a long time. And it comes on one other thing with the 49ers finally making the final decision that they're going to go down to Santa Clara. And that puts into question a little bit what's going to happen with the proposed Hunters Bay development, which that was not the only component of it, but it was a key one for that.
So this is a key time for Mayor Lee to see how he can make magic out of some unexpected forces.
Right, this is supposed to be the jobs mayor,
Yeah.
so now he's got to figure out how that's going to transpire.
Well, we're going to turn now to another trouble spot, and that is Stockton, where things are not going well in terms of the city remaining financially viable.
Yeah, this week the city council has taken what really appears to be a first step toward bankruptcy. And as you said in your introduction, Belva, Stockton, if it does eventually follow through with bankruptcy and files Chapter 9, it will become the largest city in the nation to have gone into bankruptcy. So difficult times in Stockton right now.
Well, how and what were the factors that led Stockton to this brink?
Well, everybody's asking, how we got here. How did Stockton come to this point? Certainly, there were, no one person is responsible, no one event, but Stockton overextended itself in the bond market over the last, say, 2 decades. Built a ballpark downtown complex, which a lot of people in Stockton are underwater on their homes. They owe more on the homes than they're worth, and the city is finding that they're in the same predicament down at City Hall with some of these investments. The city in the 90s extended premium health care benefits to its retirees, and that's amassed to some $417 million liability that the city now has to pay for.
Well, a couple of things here. Talk about the housing failure.
Yeah.
The whole business of foreclosures. How much of an impact has it had on Stockton's future?
Well, Stockton has been vying with Las Vegas for the dubious distinction of being ground zero for home foreclosures, and cities finance themselves on property taxes, which is related to homes, and sales taxes, people buying things. Stockton also has high unemployment, so there's sort of the 1-2 punch. Going down the list of why we're here, the state is in order to balance its budget has raided cities across the state, taken DMV fees. So there's just a number of factors that are sort of bring Stockton to the brink.
So Scott, explain what happens. You're bankrupt. Does that mean they shut the city? They aren't going to sell it in foreclosure, right? I mean, do they shut the city down? Does it mean there are going to be layoffs? They're going to shut down parks and have fewer fire engines on the streets, and there aren't going to be cops walking around, or are they going to lay off the city workforce? I mean, what happens if it's bankrupt? Is it just paperwork, or is there something real there?
Well, a city can't go away. You still have to have a police department, a fire department. You have to have water and garbage collection. So the city's not going to go away. What's going to happen is one thing the city council this week at a sort of an amazing city council meeting, they decided that one of their measures to sort of stem this, they're going to enter in this mediation process. So they're in the process now of inviting all their creditors, their major unions, the police and fire, to the table is retirees who are receiving pension, not pension, but health care benefits from the city. And they're going to, over the next 60 to 90 days, say, now in confidential hearing meetings, talk about this. How can we, restructure our debt to you? And some of those people are inevitably going to feel some pain from this.
Scott, I know Stockton is your hometown, and it must be heartbreaking to have to tell this kind of story about your hometown. But what impact is this having on the morale of the average Stockton citizen?
Yeah, it's not good, as you can imagine. City Hall was packed Tuesday night, all 3 floors, folks, trying to have their say and listen in. Stockton has been dealing with reputation issues for a long time, for 2 years running. Stockton made the most miserable cities list for Forbes magazine. This year we've overcame that, and we're now 11th, I believe. But now around the next corner is this bankruptcy, and who wants to live in a city with that kind of a reputation? So people are concerned. And very practically, getting back to Rachel's question, the city has said, we've cut to the bone in terms of cutting, laying off, cutting services, laying off police and fire. We can't do that anymore. Stockton is already one of the most violent cities in the state, if not the nation. So they say, we're not going to cut police and fire pay anymore out of a fear that they're all, going to go elsewhere for better jobs, which they are doing anyway. So they're going to ask the bondholders now who've leverage Stockton's debt, and they're going to start feeling some of the pain.
And there's not much chance that the state's going to come in with any kind of bailout, I would guess.
Yeah.
Are they even going to them at this point, or is it just like we're on our own, we're going to figure this out?
I think the state has its own problems. I don't think they're going to come bail out Stockton.
It's the process they're planning to go through. Is that something new, or has it worked in other cities?
This is a lot of firsts for Stockton. So this is Assembly Bill 506, and it was just enacted January 1st of this year. And basically it forces cities, gives cities a tool to mediate. It says, before you can go to bankruptcy court and go that extremely drastic measure, you've got to go through this mediation process. So essentially it's 60 or 90 days, depending on how it goes. The city brings in a retired federal bankruptcy judge who's been to hell and back, so to speak, and they sit down with the creditors, the retirees, the labor groups, and they say, okay, this is what's going to happen if you go to bankruptcy court. Let's talk. Let's make a deal.
So that's where we are. We're waiting to see if a deal can be made.
Yeah, we're hopeful.
Okay, well, I don't imagine folks over at Google are worrying a lot about it, but we're waiting to see what kind of a deal they'll make, if they'll make a deal at all, about their new approach to privacy rules.
I don't think Google is in the position where they feel like they have to be making deals with consumers, to be frank.
Mm-hmm. So where are we on Google and its announced change of the way it will handle its privacy?
Well, as a matter of pure fact, they're not really changing anything. They're still handling your data the same way. When you search on Google, they keep track of that. When you use Gmail, they keep track of what your messages contain. When you watch videos on YouTube, they track that too. Just now, they're tracking it all together, and they're building a much more complete profile of you that helps them when they want to improve their services or sell advertising or deliver ads to you that are based off of, whatever you put out there on the internet.
Jolie, when you think about Google, you think about how it's open access to the world, to the universe, really, for people who use it. You could type in Mars and get something, or type in Monte Carlo and get something, whatever it might be. But it seems like it is a business that's in the business to make money. And it really is ads. And it just seems to be somewhat of a disconnect of what consumers think they're getting and what is really happening.
Well, you've got this very kumbaya marketing that they're doing, like Google brings the world together. And part of that is true. But on the other side of that, they are a business, and we're consumers. We're using all these Google services for free, and they're expensive to maintain. Who's paying for it? If it's not us, then we're not really their customers, we're their product. And, the customers are the advertisers. They have to be able to run the business.
Speaking of customers, so I think everybody's addicted to Google. I can't imagine I use Google to get here to the studio tonight. Is this something I should worry about as a consumer, as somebody who uses Google? Should I be worried about them invading my privacy?
I think whether or not you decide to worry about Google invading your privacy is a matter of personal preference. They're not going to make any money by building a profile about you. They make money from, aggregating anonymized data to, determine habits and what people are going to do and what they're going to buy mostly. But here's good advice for any area of life. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. diversify your portfolio. If you're using Google for web search, don't use Gmail and YouTube and Google Docs. You know, spread it out a little bit, use a different browser, don't log in every time you do a search, and definitely, if you are concerned about privacy, go into your Google settings and fix your web history so that Google doesn't get all that information.
Isn't there another problem, I mean, that just turned up today or yesterday about Google also allowing something or other that allowed people to then capture your photographs? Is that Google's
was
problem?
there? I didn't see it today.
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of trouble with Google and photos and privacy in particular.
Yeah, I only said that to say that we seem to always be doing something or comments about privacy on the internet.
There's a reason we run up into this over and over again, and it's because this is how they make their money, by towing that fine line between ticking their users off and making them run away and meeting their advertisers' needs and giving them more access than they should have. How do you balance all those really conflicting needs as a business?
I think we're seeing that with Apple with the photos, that everyone's using the Apple
excuse me.
products where
Oh,
they
yeah,
can go
that's
in
true.
and where they can go in and
That's
grab
true.
Sorry,
everything.
Google.
And Apple doesn't really have much
There's a
of
two
an
biggies though,
excuse
right?
for that. I mean, they make a lot of money off of their hardware. Google doesn't have hardware. All they've got is you and me and the emails we're sending to our sisters and the cat food we're searching for on google.com.
So the Europeans are upset about this.
Yes.
What has been Google's attitude about it?
You know, I know that they maintain, I don't know if it's a cordial relationship, but an open relationship and an open dialogue with the people in Europe who are much more litigious and concerned about privacy than Americans seem to be. Google is embroiled in many, many lawsuits on any given day, and a lot of them center around privacy, and a lot of the privacy concerns come from the European Union, not from America. I guess, I don't know why. Is that because we're all about free trade and respecting a company's right to do whatever they need to do to make a buck?
So what, if any, repercussions will come from this big yell out about privacy? Anything? Is it anything anybody
about
can
the
do?
same that came from calling out Facebook for violating user privacy. Remember how that ruined Facebook? Oh wait, it didn't. I honestly think that, you know, we'll all live to see another day where everyone uses Gmail and Google Search and Google Docs and Google Maps. I don't think too much will happen because of this ruckus.
Do they have enough people to monitor how this happens too? I mean, where the information's using, can they keep up with all the information that's out there?
You know what? I think a lot of it is very sophisticated machines and algorithms that they use to sort this data and say, okay, where can we find patterns? You know, where are we going to say, okay, you searched for cat food. If we give you an ad about cat food later, you're going to click on that. And finding those patterns is a very hard, complicated computing problem.
Well, we're in the brave new world, so thank you so much, Jolie.